Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm here with Firas Zahabi, the mastermind fighter, but also the logician, right? Also, the people that know about this, but he's the man who has the ability, the theoretical and conceptual knowledge of the philosophy and logic and these things. So we're gonna actually discuss randomness, because it's really a very powerful thing.
For those who don't know, I have a degree in philosophy as well. I graduated in philosophy, and this was many years ago. And for over, I would say, 20 years, I've been studying philosophy very closely. And I hear the modern day conversations and whatnot. And me and Muhammad become friends. We've had a lot of nice discussions as well. And there are so many great thinkers in history. There's so many great thinkers, and really the knowledge is out there. It's a very difficult, tedious type of knowledge to get to, because you have to read a lot of books to get to this type of knowledge, and to try to encapsulate all this. And of course, you can never have more than 1% of knowledge. So today, what we want to talk about today is really a very important epistemological, idea that's so profound that we have to put it in a simple way for people to understand.
And this is actually very important to discourse, because like a lot of people now, especially with like atheist and theist discourse, they bring the idea of randomness. So if you ask a lot of people now, atheists or otherwise, how did the universe come into existence? They'll say, well, the universe was a random generation. We just came into existence by way of random generation. And the fine tuning that we see around us is also a random generation. Or if they don't go through that route, they'll say, well, it's random, and they'll use that in the vernacular. It's used in the vernacular, kind of like to explain processes that can't be explained, really.
Right. A common misconception is, we have to understand there are three fundamental ways to know something.
Yeah.
Can we turn off the thing in the back?
Oh yeah.
It's making noise.
So
there's three ways to know something. Okay, you know something. I'll put it in the simplest terms possible. We can know something mathematically or logic. We can know something scientifically or empirically. Okay, and we can know something intuitively. Okay, so these are the three basic ways. Now, putting all that aside, all the jargon, I like to start with thought experiments, because thought experiments make complicated lessons as simple as possible. Okay, so we were talking about it earlier today, and Muhammad wanted to record it, so I think it's a great idea. Let's record it and share it. So this question I asked you before, so you already know the answer to it. Okay, but the question was, if I were to flip a coin, okay, I'm gonna flip a coin. What are the odds it lands on heads?
50%.
50% is the odds it lands on heads. Yeah. The actual answer. Okay, if you want to know the truth, and an expression I like to use is capital T, not everyday truth, but the truth, the actual truth, literally speaking, the big T, the actual truth, reality. The odds are 1 in infinity. And when we say this, people are going to be like, doesn't make any sense. It's a very normal reaction. Now, the reason why it's 1 in infinity is a little bit complicated, but the truth is 1 in infinity. Now, the reason why we say it's 50-50 is because of our prior experience with coins. It has nothing to do with logic. So for instance, if I wiped your memory, here's a thought experiment. I wipe your memory, you have all your intelligence, you have all your faculties, and I flip a coin in front of you, but this time it's the first time you see a coin being flipped. And the coin, I flip it and it turns into a butterfly. It wouldn't be more surprising that it turned into a butterfly than if it landed on heads.
That's right.
Because you have no memory of coins.
First encounter with that.
First encounter, like for instance, a child who sees a flame for the first time, he has no idea what's going to happen when he touches it. As a matter of fact, you can tell him 1,000 times what's going to happen. He still doesn't understand you. But when he touches it, now he has an experience. He has a history with flames. And this is a very profound point, because science, the scientific method we have today, is really the observations of patterns and regularities found in nature. Patterns and regularities found in nature. These patterns and regularities found in nature is what we call the science. So for instance, when I flip that coin, I do it enough times, it lands on heads, it lands on tails, it lands on heads, it lands on... You're developing a history, you're developing you're noticing a pattern going on. It never turned into a butterfly. It never disappeared. It always did the same thing. It either landed on tails or it landed on head. 50% of the time. Now that you've had this history with coins, you have this pattern that you figured out, you say, next time you flip it, I predict that the future will behave like the past. And this is the scientific method. Scientific method is a faith that the future will behave like the past. It's a faith. It's based on faith.
That's really profound, because
It
a lot
is.
of people that talk about science, right? I mean, they think that the antithesis of science is faith. They think
Correct.
If you don't have faith,
Correct.
science is the opposition of faith. It's
Right.
it's knowledge. It's
Right.
pure knowledge.
Right.
And what you're saying is actually, science does require some kind of faith here.
Science is a type of faith. Now I'll give you an example for those of you who are jumping out of your seats and are furious. Me and Muhammad are lovers of science. We love science. It's just one way of knowing something.
Yeah.
It's not the absolute truth. If you only use the scientific method, you will not get to the capital T, the truth. Okay? Like I tell Muhammad, science is popular because it fills our bellies with food. It puts gold in our safes. It allows us to conquer our enemies. It's a very practical practice. It's a very practical method of going about in life, and it's important. That's why we love science. We love our smartphones. We love our modern medicine. We're not against that. But when it comes to capital truth, we have to inquire in the other realms. We have to use logic and intuition as well. It's a more complete understanding of what reality is. Now, if people are not interested in reality, the capital truth, just turn off this video and go watch a Kim Kardashian video maybe, or something else, you know? Go get a finance video, whatever. But this is for people who are interested in reality as itself. And philosophers over many millennia have discussed what is reality. And it's a fascinating topic for those who are interested.
Wow.
Now, what were we saying?
About randomness. About flipping the coin now. So we flip the coin.
So we're flipping a coin. We create a pattern of regularity, then we develop a faith that this pattern of regularity will stay up. And one very common example, one classic example, is Aristotle, a brilliant man, one of the smartest men that ever lived. And he would see the sun go around the earth every day. And his ancestors told him that the sun goes around the earth in their lifetime, and that their forefathers told them that the sun goes around the earth. And that was a scientific observation found in nature, done by countless people. He said, look, the sun goes around the earth, it's a fact. Fast forward many years later, some philosophers and thinkers started saying, no, wait a second, we object. We think it's the earth going around the sun. Turns out it's an optical illusion. Those thinkers were correct, Galileo and the bunch. There's actually many great thinkers in history who suggested that maybe the earth is going around the sun. It's the opposite. It's just an optical illusion. Regardless, a scientific fact was overturned. Now, scientific facts are overturned throughout history. Why? Optical illusions, faulty patterns. We made a mistake. We thought a pattern was such and it wasn't. Like, for instance, we used to think that all flamingos are pink. And then we went to Australia and we found black flamingos, and we turned out, hey, flamingos are pink because of the food that they eat. Another scientific fact overturned. A scientific fact can never actually literally be a fact as people will commonly understand the word fact. Okay, a fact is what the consensus is, what the experts today agree upon. That is a scientific fact. It's not the same as a mathematical fact.
It's like the problem of induction comes into it.
The problem of induction. So a fact in science is really a hypothesis, a very agreed upon hypothesis. Now, this is not an attack on science. Again, we love science. Okay, nothing wrong with science. Science is a beautiful thing. We're just being honest about science and what are its strengths and weaknesses. Is science absolute? Meaning, if I follow the scientific method, I will know the reality of the world as it is. What is your opinion on this?
Well, because of the problem of induction. So, as you've outlined correctly here, the problem of induction indicates that with the flamingo example, I think David Hume used the swan example. It's like, it's not possible.
Right, swan, flamingo, etc.
Yeah, so the idea of like having all of the sample group. The sample group can't be fully represented. And for that reason, we cannot assume that everything can be analyzed and generalized. That's one thing. And the other thing is that, like you were saying, kind of links into what you were saying. David Hume also mentioned this point, which is the idea of history repeating itself. We have to have the faith in that. And that's a presupposition in all of science. And you always have to have that faith.
And David Hume was very open about it. He's a phenomenal philosopher. He said, look, science is the faith that the history will repeat itself, that the future will behave like the past. If the future, for whatever reason, doesn't behave like the past, You know, and Karl Popper, he did a beautiful experiment to try to fix this issue. Okay, maybe that we're sidetracking. We want to talk about randomness, but we all know Karl Popper created falsification. For those of you out there who are familiar with Karl Popper, but even that doesn't get around the problem. It makes it better. It brings us closer to the truth, but it doesn't get around the problem.